Welcome to Work is Third, the podcast that's all about indulging in rest, setting boundaries, finding joy, and putting yourself first. I'm Dawn Hunter, your host, and I'm so excited that you're here. Today's conversation is full of warmth and wisdom and honesty, as well as lots of laughter. I'm joined by Megan Albertson, a public health leader, creative spirit, and advocate for justice. Megan shares a journey of living with deep gratitude, having a really strong boundary game, and resisting the pressures of hustle culture. We talk about the beauty of days that are just kind of mid, the freedom in letting go of outcomes, and how creativity and community shape our work and our lives. This is a heartfelt, incredibly joyful, and fiercely authentic conversation that you don't want to miss. Let's dive in. Hello, Megan.
Hello, Dawn.
Welcome to Work is Third.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too.
You have no idea.
Oh my God, same.
Oh, no, you might have an idea.
I do have an idea because I'm there.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to do is start out asking you, how are you feeling today?
I feel medium today.
Okay. Explain medium.
Kind of like right in the center.
Of what?
All the things. I try to keep myself very in the middle. Not too high, not too low. Today is a beautiful day in St. Petersburg. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. So I'm just kind of enjoying my unpeaked, unvalleyed day. It's just a midday.
Is that a good thing? Midday. Is that what you strive for?
Mm-hmm.
Like more of those on an average?
Yeah, I try.
Then the highs
I like that we're starting out with my spiritual walk. I do have a spiritual practice that tries to keep me out of too high, too low, just really kind of stable so I don't run too hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. So tell me more about the spiritual practice, if you're comfortable, and how it shapes your days.
Well, I do a type of spiritual practice called passage meditation, which folks can look up, which my sister-in-law actually exposed me to, and it's really wonderful. And it's just got some key tenets that I do, like having a mantra, slowing down, not rushing, which actually is pretty aligned with me because I'm not built for speed. Like, speed is never a big threat with me anywhere. Yeah, I mean, it comes in a lot of different ways, like, writing morning pages and kind of trying to keep myself kind of clear and create that kind of buffer space between what the world gives me and how I react. And that generally helps me because, maybe it's where we work, like working in healthcare in this day and age, there is a lot of input that is absolute madness all the time, it feels. And so being able to observe the world and receive what's going on without reacting to it as an impulse has given me a lot of, I think, stability and clarity in not just my work, but in my life in general. I didn't think we'd start here. Well, you asked me how I feel. I was like, I actually don't know, but I like the middays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. To strike more of that balance on most of your days, rather than have a bunch of highs and lows.
Yeah.
That the middays are beautiful.
Yeah, I really like them. I had a good day at work earlier. I got some stuff done. This is really fun, and yeah, it doesn't mean it's not fun. It just means I'm not being controlled by the experiences of today.
Ooh, I love that phrase.
Yeah.
I control the experiences.
That's right.
I try to control.
Well,
and I often fail.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll get you. Trying to control it. Yeah. But I can control what I think, right? I can control what I give my attention to, which is kind of what we're talking about today, right?
So you mentioned morning pages.
I did.
I also do morning pages.
Love.
I picked it up because of The Artist's Way.
Mm-hmm. I think that is why I picked it up, because my wife was reading The Artist. Didn't you guys do it
We did it at book club.
Yeah, and so she was, and I had been wanting to get more into writing and kind of creative expression, and she was doing the book for your book club, and she told me about it, and then we started doing morning pages together.
I love that.
Yeah.
Since we started the book, so we started reading it last March, I believe, I have continuously done morning pages.
I've been doing it since then, although I was just talking to a friend about this because I'm having a midday and I like that because yesterday was absolute foolishness. yesterday the spiritual practice went out the window and I was like, I can't believe this is my life. Like, why is everything so hard? This job is garbage. I hate it all. Everything's impossible. What's happening? So, lest you think I've achieved full enlightenment. But my friend was asking, like, how are things going? Like, how is the creativity work going and the writing? And I'm like, this is actually a hard time. Just high energy, high focus. Like, it feels like a lot is demanded of me in a lot of ways, both in the work and the current climate and just, life stuff. I mean, I probably haven't done pages since last week. And it's like, and I can never tell if the creative things that I do, the creative expression, the crafts, the knitting, the cross stitch, all of these things that I do that really give me such joy and peace, if I lose them because my life is like madness, or if my life feels like madness because I've let those slip. And I don't actually know which one's which.
That's a good question. I debate that with myself a lot too, because, I am quick to give up some things when I feel like I'm busy and I just have to get things done. But then sometimes I choose to give those things up because I want to do whatever it is I feel like I need to get done.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably a little bit of both, at least for me, where sometimes I'm sacrificing these things and probably need to preserve them. And then sometimes it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's such a good point, is like holding these things loosely and being gentle with myself, right? The creative expression stuff is generative, but it also is effort, right? It is labor, and it is that beautiful type of labor that I think is really restorative. But at the end of the days that just feel like it takes all of my energy, all of my focus, all of my clarity, all of my mantra just to deal with the day. At the end, I'm like, and now it's baseball season. I'm like, man, I just want to watch baseball. I just want to lay here on my phone playing word games, listening to Dwayne and Brian talk to me about the Rays. And that's okay too, I guess.
It does make me think about how we become attached to routine.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I sometimes struggle to let that go.
Oh, interesting.
And so it's my perfectionist tendency, but I write the morning pages, and then if there's a day where I don't have time, sometimes I feel bothered by that.
You have a judgment about that.
I have a judgment. A harsh one.
Yeah. My parents are kind of on opposite ends of that. My father, who's a physician, he is a routine guy. And by this, I mean, in our home where we grew up, there are footprints in his bedroom, in the specific part of the room that he does his morning stretches, because every day for 30 plus years, he has stood in the exact same spot and done his back stretches. I mean, he's and it is who he is. He loves it. He doesn't struggle to stay in routine. My guy, the routine is the thing. And then my mom is like, I'm so bored. I could do a new thing every day. Just really more adventurous, likes to do new things. And I'm kind of in between. I like stability and I like predictability, especially in my home and in my schedule. I like to know where I am and what I'm going to do. And I like to feel like I have some control over that. I also travel all the time for work. But to me, the goal, all of these things, the habits, they exist to serve me, truly. All of these things that I do in pursuit of the version of me that is the most abundant for the world, right? The way that I can show up in the world and be a good wife and a good child and a good friend and a good employee of my community, right? Who is allocating resources to me to do something good. And I believe that. I am the best version of myself when I feel creative and in love and just open. And if those hobbies or those things or those pages don't do that, right? If it stresses me out more to comply with the pages, to check off the consecutive days, then that actually doesn't take me closer to this abundant, open, joyful self. So I just don't do it. And that's why I'm not goal oriented.
I love that too, this idea that if you're doing it and being aware of yourself enough to say, if I'm doing this and it is not bringing me the joy that it should or that it used to, then maybe I need a break, or maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I need to shift my approach to it.
Yeah.
You actually make me think, when you talked about your father and routines, that if you're a person who tries to adopt routines and then you struggle with it or you are challenged by it, then I think maybe that's your body telling you you are not a routine person.
Yeah. It does sound is this just one amazing rationalization of just not being able to follow through? And I am certainly open to the fact that maybe that is what this is. Fine. But at the end of the day, I am also aware that there are things that I don't want to do that are good for me, right? And that seems somewhat different. In any given moment, I'm every step I take is the next most beautiful step. and it's brand new. And when I get there, the world is going to be new by virtue of me having traveled one new step. And I just don't have the ability to turn off the evaluation of the next step. Right. So I'm like, yeah, that made sense. Like, yes, this goal. And I think goals can be great. Like, and again, to my wife, like goals orient her, and she's just amazing in her like stick to itiveness. Like, she will get up every day and do it again. It's amazing to watch. Whereas like every day I'll wake up and I'll be like, all right, does that still serve me? Right? Like,
Great
and
question.
I don't know. And I will say it feels very anti-capitalist, truly, to be like, I don't know, does this serve me? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to set this goal. I'm not going to produce. I'm going to be fine breaking the streak. And I don't mean that to be kind of judgmental about one way or another. I'm just saying, for me, it has been hard to not have an opinion of that as I'm lazy, I don't have follow through. Like, all of these things we're told when we don't have the ability to like be successful in the way that is prescribed, which is set the goal and achieve the goal. And everything else will burn. You look at the people who are at the top of their game, like the Tom Brady's of the world. Michigan, University of Michigan, alumni, Tom Brady, I'm just saying.
Buckeyes.
Oh no. We can't, Dawn. We can't today. We're not.
This is a neutral zone.
It is. It is. So anyway, the Tom Brady's of the world.
Yes.
Michigan grad. Irrelevant to this conversation.
Completely irrelevant.
Right? But, like, to get that good at one thing, you can't be good at a bunch of other stuff, right? You do one thing with a singular focus, and everything else will always come second. And that is not a take on Tom Brady. I'm just saying in general, right? The amount of focus it takes to do one thing and one thing only requires not doing a bunch of other things. And I don't think I can weed things out. Like, those things change all the time. I am completely incapable of sticking to a commitment or a goal that made sense last year when my life is completely different.
I agree. And I wonder if we knew more about what Tom Brady does in his free time, or even a Kobe, or those really elite athletes. I bet they do have practices. They're reading meditation books, or they like to play farming video games like myself.
Farming video games?
Well, let me be more specific. Stardew Valley.
Is that an app?
It's a game on the Switch. You can play it online too.
Oh my gosh.
I love farming.
I love farming too. I want to own alpacas. That is a goal I'll stick to. I don't know if I'll ever get there, but
it's good to have aspirations though.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, aspirations.
But I bet some of these players or other people who are in these elite positions do have something that helps to feed their creativity or helps to round them out. We just may not see that because we see the performance. We see the production.
Yeah. I am willing, and again, there are certainly experts who know these things, but I would be willing to bet that the things that they are doing in their free time are aligned with the goal. Right? Mm. Right? So yes, they're doing meditative practices, they're doing creativity, and they understand how those activities actually are consistent and productive within the framework of the goal.
Well, and I love how you said it though, which is that doing these things that are aligned with your goal also helps you to be the best version of yourself.
Oh, interesting.
Right. And so for me, it's just thinking I love the creative practices because I feel that helps me to give my full, joyful, thoughtful self to the world. And when I lose those things, then I just become the analyst, the researcher, just kind of the person that's just boxed into one identity. And there's so much more that makes me a more complete person that I can bring to everything that I engage with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I think the centrality of the goal, or maybe just like the framing of a goal, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't have goals. Like, this sounds so...
You just said you have a goal to own alpacas.
But I think you're right. It's an aspiration. It's like a thing I want to do. But like, I am in no way shaping my life around owning alpacas, sadly, because I would love to do that.
I cannot remember who posted this, but I saw something that said that one of the greatest steps in their evolution was letting go of the idea of outcomes.
Yeah, I love that.
And I loved that as well.
Yeah.
Because it makes you just reframe, what is it that you're trying to do? You're trying to do process. You're trying to live life in the best way for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you own the alpaca or get a nice car or are able to travel the world, on a private jet or whatever. Those are outcomes.
Yeah.
How you get there and how you engage in life while you're doing those things or while you're obtaining those things, I think that is what matters.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a part of work too. Is like how you spend your days is what your life is. Like that's your life, and I really like being in my days. And it's taken me a lot to learn to live within my day, within my body, to not live in the past and look at things that have been lost, or to look at the future, mostly anxiety or fears about what could happen, what could be lost, but to just be like, no, today's a good day. I just wake up in the morning and my wife is like, oh my God, because I'm like, we get another one, we get another day, let's go. This is the coolest. I get to wake up in this cool house with my favorite person and our dog and in a cool town. I get to do cool things with cool people. There's other stuff in there too, but that's amazing. There's such a tremendous place for gratitude when I break it down like that.
That is beautiful to have that view of gratitude. I just did the Fight for Air climb Tampa.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And
it was amazing. I finished in 12 minutes and 13 seconds.
Remind me your goal, was it sub 13 or 15?
It was sub 13.
Sub 13.
Yeah.
I did it.
I did it. And I did it for my father, who died of lung cancer in 2010. But he used to say all the time, every day above ground is a good day.
Yeah.
And more so toward the end of his life. But I always try to remember that, thinking that I woke up today, I have a beautiful family that I love, my fur babies. I live in this amazing city that I really enjoy and get to do lots of cool stuff, as you were saying.
Yeah.
And that's something to be grateful for, even in the chaos of the world right now, for us to remember every day when I get up that in this moment, in my immediate bubble, everything is okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want people to forget that. It's easy to lose sight of everything around you that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think to get lost in the chaos, especially in the current political moment, I think we all have to remember to take a step back and intentionally identify the things that we're grateful for that are working in our life. Yeah.
You and I both kind of do justice work. Certainly, the work is not done until we're all okay. That can be true. We are still showing up to work. There are still things to do. There are still people who are suffering for stupid stuff that we can fix. And it is absolutely the case that things can be good, that this can be a moment to be grateful for. And I mean, certainly in my own life, I've sat in the mud, right? Like, been in the days where, like, every single breath hurts. And you're like, this is a pain that I will not be able to get out of. This will change me. I've been in those days. And I will have those days again. That is just life. I'm humbled to the fact that not every day will be this day. And we say this a lot in my family too, is like, today is not our day. Today is not our day. Today we don't have to carry that. We can be free to be more abundant, to have the energy to do the things that we need to do. And both of those can be true. There can be crippling suffering in the world that we know exists today. And we can still rejoice in what we have and how far we've come, and try to do something else again.
Now, you said that this hasn't always been your viewpoint on life. So where did you start out, and how did you end up having this shift?
I mean, I grew up I grew up a happy kid. We had a great life, but my younger sister died in a car accident when she was 16. So I was 17 and she was 16, and that'll mess you up. And then my older brother died of cancer in 2016. So I'm the last. We must protect me at all costs. That's the pact. That's the pact in my friend group. Is like, my parents cannot bury all three of us. I must survive.
I am sorry for the losses that you've had. Those are traumatic. They stay with you forever, and I can't imagine being the only sibling left.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been wild. I don't have a thing of like, everything happens for a reason. I actually just think a lot of it is just luck, gravity, ice is slippery, whatever. But I'm a different version of myself, and I actually really like the version of myself. Like, I'm proud of what I did with that loss and how I've let it metabolize in me and the parts of me that it brings out. And that's true for my parents too. You know, I'm proud of them for what they did with that loss and how they worked through it and kept our family together. So we all kind of had to do work individually so that we could stay a family after both of those losses. And we all did it, and I'm really proud of us for that. And again, I like how loosely I hold things now. You know, part of the spiritual practice is like, calm down. Discomfort is okay. You're okay. And I think I hold those things, those preferences, all of that stuff much looser now. And that makes me a better version of me. Yeah.
So you've talked about some really important parts of your life. We've talked about your parents, your wife, your siblings. What are some other important aspects of your identity that shape how you relate to work and to life?
I mean, being queer is a huge part of my story arc and my identity, and having a queer community, which St. Pete is really amazing for. I'm really grateful for that. Band camp, super queer. Yeah. Looking back, and now I'm all old, and I can look back at like young people and be like, oh God, so sorry you have to be doing that. But now I can look back and I can kind of acknowledge the part, the things in me developmentally that I can attribute to growing up queer, and the kind of protective factors of that, which has been really interesting. Because so like I'm a gay person, but I'm also a genderqueer person, and actually both of those were different things. And we didn't really have genderqueer when I was young and growing up, but we didn't even have a language for it. So I kind of figured out I was gay, and that happened. And then it was like, my wife and I are both gay, but like my wife is not genderqueer. Like she's constantly kind of having to come out as gay because she looks like a straight woman. So she has a different path, right? I don't generally have to come out anymore as queer, which is quite a relief. So I mean, that has been a big part of it, because there's such an intentionality in figuring that out, right? Especially in our generation, where we were trying to exist and figure these things out before the language was maybe not developed. I mean, there were certainly thinkers who were doing this work, but it wasn't on TikTok, right? It wasn't on Insta. It wasn't easily accessible to young queer people. So that part of my life has become just really important and really pivotal in how I understand who I am and the work that I do, doing justice work and anti-racist work and, anti-patriarchy work, all that from within the genderqueer body.
And how do you balance those aspects of your identity in an environment that doesn't want you to express yourself or to live your life fully and joyfully, and also trying to serve people who are also trying to perhaps, operate in a different way than what society expects us to do, whether that's being, anti-capitalist or anti-racist or any number of things. How do you strike that balance for yourself?
It's interesting. When my sister, so I'm from a small town in Michigan, and my dad was a physician and my mom was a teacher. And my sister died when she was 16. So she was a sophomore and I was a senior in high school in a small town. So the death of a 16-year-old in a small town, it was a community trauma, right? It was this tremendously personal tragedy for us, but it was also personal to an entire community. And that really endeared our family to the community. I mean, still, it was 1999. It's been 26 years? And people still, when I'm at work, when I'm working in Michigan, when I'm up in Jackson, will say things about Whitney, will remember her, they have tattoos of her. I mean, it's just like, it was a small town thing. And, there's just all of these factors for me and my work in that town that afford me a tremendous amount of privilege and access and protection from really, I mean, I've never had a negative experience being really openly gay and openly queer in my hometown. I figured that out kind of early on, and I was like, well, so work for people who don't have your privilege. I need to be as out and as queer, don't have to ask me twice, in this job as I can be, right? I'm working in the hospital, that my dad is an excellent provider that everybody loves. He's a kind, gentle, wonderful man, right? I'm working in a community where people hold this loss, in their own bodies. And I am loved for these reasons. But there are all these protective factors that actually kept me safer than I would otherwise be to do this work out in a very loud way. And I'm sure there are people who don't like it or appreciate it, but I never hear about it. Also, I work for a healthcare system that has always been, at least as much as a big organization can be, very aligned with my values. Nobody is saying, stop talking about anti-racism. Nobody has ever once said that. In the Department of Public Health, right, in our population health department, we are all working in anti-racist spaces and anti-patriarchy spaces. So that's also very consistent with the people that I work, which is why I still work there. I mean, I still work there because their values feel very aligned with mine, and I am empowered to go as far as I possibly can with what we have.
So many people do not work in spaces or for organizations where their values are aligned with their employer. And I think that can be challenging if you've never experienced that, to say to someone, well, you can seek out a job where there is greater alignment. It's not easy for people to just go find another job. And so then I think it becomes a question of, how do you rank your values, I guess, or how do you prioritize which values really drive your commitment to an organization or to a cause versus which ones you're willing to, I don't know, I don't want to say set aside, but at least to not elevate as much, understanding that you're in an environment that doesn't allow you to fully express yourself or to advocate in the way that you would like.
Yeah, I mean, we live in such a capitalist hellscape. It's hard for, people got to eat. So I'm also like, it is a tremendous privilege to be able to go to work and love it. And to have the flexibility to be like, if I don't like it, I'll leave. I mean, there is a lot of structural privilege built into something like that from our education and, the type of work that we do. So, I mean, to me, and I've always been very clear about this, even with, the job that I've had, and I've had this job since 2011, I guess. I love it. I'm deeply committed to my boss. I'm deeply committed to the town that I work in. But I've always been very clear that the work is not the job. I'm going to do this work for the rest of my life. This community that I'm from, that I serve, I will serve them in this work for the rest of my life. I feel like I've been given tools and resources to support the community. That is my calling. It is my purpose, and I will continue to do it. It is currently the case that the job I have pays me to do that. But my wife and I also own a business. We opened that in 2013. For that reason, I was like, I'm never going to rely on the job for me to be able to do the work that I want to do in the world. So if the job pops off and they go bananas, then I'm out. And I'm going to keep doing the work. We'll scale up the business and figure out a way to support ourselves, but still be able to do the work. And again, I am certainly aware that there is a lot of privilege in being able to do that. And from within the place of privilege, I've always been very clear about that. There is something that I'm supposed to do to make this town that I love better and more peaceful. And I want to do that.
I want people to hear this message and think that they can also get to a point where they can have the same view and adopt kind of what you're talking about, which is, I have been saying work is not who you are, it's just a thing you do. But I love your distinction that the work is not the job, because the job is the thing that we do.
Yeah.
And being able to separate those and understand that jobs will come and go, but your purpose on this earth, right, is eternal. And that is what you are here to do. And you have to find a way to make that happen independent of a job or any other factors that might shape your path. I love the way that you said it. Now I'm going to have to start switching my phrasing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice shift, right? You're like, my employer isn't letting me do the work in the world. And that's, I think, true to your initial question, which is, how do you find a job that is aligned with your values? Well, maybe you don't, and maybe you don't need to. The world needs people who are doing all kinds of jobs. And this is not a take on whether or not people who drive garbage trucks have a purpose, right? We certainly need people to drive garbage trucks and to plow the roads in the north. These are jobs that serve a really important purpose in our communities. And that may or may not be the life's purpose of the people doing those jobs. And that's totally fine. It doesn't need to be also, right? Their life is providing for their family and being a great dad or being a really present mom and helping the Little League team and whatever. Those are really wonderful things. And the job could be a part of the purpose, or the job could just be the way that we make money so that we have free time, right? To go be abundant and create art and love kids and do all those other things.
Okay, you just perfectly described why I created this podcast called Work is Third.
Okay. Cool.
Well, because it's just like, work is a thing that you have to do. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what people do is necessary for the functioning of society.
Yep.
And at the same time, there are all these other aspects of who we are that are so much more important. And, when you read all these stories about hospice workers who talk about people that they have been with, in their last days, none of them ever say, I wish I had worked more, or I wish I had succeeded more, or accomplished more.
Yeah.
They want to have spent more time with their family and friends. They want to have done the things that they were passionate about.
Yeah.
They wanted to have pursued their dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, I also would like at some point in my life to be a death doula. I think that would be wonderful. I would absolutely love that experience, because there is something so tremendously beautiful about being around people when they're dying. And especially this idea of kind of a good death where where it's like in the right chronological order. I think 16 years old is like out of order, right? Like she always would have died. It wasn't the death, it was like the timing. But like people who are older, who have lived their life, who are at peace with this passing, with this transition, and just their experience of that process is just really fascinating. And it will really liberate you. I mean, we don't think about, like, we're very afraid of death. I feel like as a culture, we have a very unhealthy relationship with death. People don't like to talk about it. They think it's unlucky. I think about death all the time. And it is not, I feel like the relationship I have with death is very healthy. Like, I understand it to be inevitable. It's not the worst thing. I can think of a million worse things than just dying. That's not a fun game. But like the finite number of days that we have, even like a statistical average, right, at life expectancy, but it could be 2 days left. Who knows? Holding that from a place of humility and gratitude actually will change the way you go through your life, and it'll really mess up your boundary game if you're not careful, because my boundary game's all wacky now.
Yeah.
Rigid.
So I want to come back to the rigid boundary game. But first, really quick, I want to say I was in a yoga class one night, and as we were entering Shavasana, one of the things that the instructor said is, what if these were your last 5 breaths? How would you spend them? And it really, for me, helped my mind to clear.
Yeah.
Because if I had only 5 breaths left, I'm not going to want to be thinking about my terrible boss or a project I have due, or my to-do list that has most things not done, or any of that, or the errands I need to run, none of that. And it was like, I want to center and hold the people that I love dearly in my life, and that's what I would want to be thinking about. And so I love that. It's beautiful that you said that, because I think too, your aspiration to be a death doula, to think about how you help people also be at that point where, when they're approaching their last 5 breaths, are they at peace? And, are they exiting this world in a way that feels very aligned and peaceful for them? Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing process to be with people in that. Yeah. So let's go back to rigid boundary game.
Oh, I love my boundary.
So the first time that we had a real conversation, I think I'm good at boundaries. You're up here.
I know, I have such a judgment about it. But I'm relaxed. I actually told a friend of mine who I work with that I was coming on a podcast to talk about like boundaries at work, and she was like, "Oh my God." Wow. Yeah. I just don't think it's that weird to be like, no, like, nah, like, no. I just, and again, I have a boss who cares very deeply about all of, our department as human beings, and who is also equally crushed by the unreasonable expectations of healthcare currently. And I've just never, again, like, none of it makes sense. Like, what do you get at the end of it? That doesn't mean I never do extra work. I value being helpful. If I'm gonna, like, violate a work boundary, 99% of the time it's because somebody that I really care about needs something, and if I do it tonight, it will go away tomorrow. That's also one of my things. If I do it tonight, will it disappear tomorrow? Because if I'm just doing it tonight and it's going to be there tomorrow, then I am not doing it.
No. Ooh, I have to adopt that rule. Maybe I do it and I just haven't named it in the way that you have. But I think that's a great approach. Yeah. Because if I'm going to stay up late and work on something, but then I'm still going to have to deal with it when I wake up tomorrow, why am I staying up late? Yeah. No, and I'm also a morning person. I am peak vibe at like 6:25. I am humming at like 8, 9, by like 10. I'm like, oh man. Is everybody still here? And then I tell everybody who at work knows that at 2 p.m. I have slid completely into nihilism. None of this is going to work. I have absolutely no hope. Like, scheduling a meeting after 2 o'clock with me is like a wild time, because I have completely abandoned all hope for us as a species. This is me at 6:25 in the morning. Oh no, okay, so together we're like wall-to-wall hope. Wall-to-wall hope. Or wall-to-wall nihilism, I suppose, depending on your framework. How you want to look at that. Yes, this is a double-edged sword I've also learned about myself in this time of wolves, is that like I work the best. I'm completely indulgent. All of this is like one big indulgent world for me. I work the best when I'm deeply in love with things, when I feel passionate, when I laugh, when I'm joyful, when the people I'm with are fun. The people that I work with are so funny and smart and interesting and wild and completely irreverent. And it is the best work that I do. The absolute worst work I do, the least creative,
the most pedantic, when I fall into just the worst parts of me, is when I am deeply resentful, overtired, and probably sober at happy hour. Like, this is not a good time for me to be doing work. What do you want from me? If you want me to create, this is really for them. It's really for the organization that my boundaries exist, because they really want good work from me, and I'm really willing to give it to them between like 9 and 4.
I love that you said that, because I feel like employers don't often think about how to help employees set better boundaries and how that ultimately does benefit the organization.
Yeah. And as public health people, we know this, right? Like there is just tomes of research about how we can actually, even this is a crass way to say it, but like get good work out of people, right? Because people do want to create good work. Who doesn't like to do things that are great? Like,
we all want to do that.
Yeah, we all want to do that. It's really hard to do that if you feel crushed by like weird competitive models and you're exploited and your work isn't. It's just like, these are not nice ways to treat people. I also, again, I don't work in spaces where anybody behaves like that. The culture in my department, as defined by my bosses, is a culture of human beings. And like, listen, hot take, I don't know any place in healthcare that has a higher expectation of excellence than our department. I mean, we are neurotic in terms of the quality. It's not that, right? It's just, we expect that, but I don't care when you do it. I don't care how long it takes you. You don't have to sit here at your desk. You can be here. You got to take your kid to the doctor. You got to take your dog over here to daycare. Just do it, right? Do that. But the work still needs to be at a high quality. And people are more likely to create really high quality work if they're night people and they can do it at 8 p.m. Yep. Or if I'm a morning person and I can do it, I can put in, the time that I need to put in. And then by 3 o'clock, I'm like, I'm on my nihilist break. I got to recharge.
I'm on my nihilist break.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I think this is a real practical tip for people who are listening, is understanding your own energy flow.
Sure. Yeah.
And then asking for a schedule and advocating for a schedule and scheduling yourself even in a way that you will be your best.
Yeah. Yeah. I like midday walks, right? Especially if people are working from home. I'm a morning person, and actually those are my best hours. So I used to think, well, that's great. I'll like log on, I'll do, the stuff. And I was like, no, my best hours are for me. Get out of here. I wake up, my best hours are before 8 a.m. I love getting up. Nick and I at 5:25, favorite number. Get up, and I have these hours that are just mine. They're my best hours. It's when I feel creative. It's when I like feel flow, and I'm not using them for work ever again.
That's actually something I learned also during COVID.
Yeah.
Because I did the exact same thing. My brain's most alert.
Yep.
And I can write well and deep research well in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, why am I giving my best brain to a job?
Yeah.
I'm still going to do the research, and I'm still going to write, and it's still going to be amazing.
That's right.
But what if instead I went on a walk in the afternoon?
Yeah, that's right.
Or what if, I took a little dance break? Just what if I spent my time journaling in the afternoon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Or just things where you can structure your day understanding that you do have to prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
Work is going to get what it gets out of you.
Yeah.
But you have other aspects of your life that also need you to give to them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's such an undercurrent here, like, of the stories that we're given, right? Because all of this feels defiant, right? That the baseline is that work requires the best of us. And this isn't even like good job, bad job. I have an excellent job that I love. It's a perfect job for me. I'm so grateful that I get to do this job with these people. And that still doesn't mean that my love and appreciation for that job requires me to give me to the job, right? Like the assumption is this all feels very like, oh my God, I hope my boss doesn't hear it. No, my boss would be like, that tracks, right? And they should, because the expectation that the job would get any more than exactly what's written there is absolutely unreasonable.
It is.
I want the 4-day work week that the rise of the machines promised. I was promised less work when the machines start doing stuff, and the machines are doing stuff, and I still have to work 5 days a week.
Right.
That seems dumb.
The evidence behind the 4-day work week is solid.
Oh my God. 4-day work week. Who's doing quality stuff on Friday? Get out of here. Nobody. Salespeople, maybe. You're buying stuff on Friday, so salespeople, maybe. But let's stop it. Stop it.
What is wild to me is when organizations do these pilots where they try the 4-day work week, or they try team-wide or organization-wide days off or something, and then they see that it works, and then they see people are more productive, or they give flex schedules, and people are happier and they're doing better. And then they say, that's great, the pilot is done, we're going to go back to the way that we were doing things before. Yeah. And it drives me bonkers that they do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Sense making, I don't think is the purpose.
It is definitely not an apparent driver of organizational behavior.
No, it's not. I think a lot of it's generational too. I mean, obviously, every generation has new lessons, new frameworks, new cultures. Where we are now is that there's an understanding of just elasticity and change now that everybody gets. Right? So like before, it was just the pace of change. So it doesn't matter what the change is. Now I anticipate that it's going to change all the time. And that part of my break even is going to be adapting to change all the time. I actually don't think that was the case for the generation that preceded us. The ability to adapt to change was underdeveloped. So I think I am hopeful that new generations coming into leadership will make different decisions, specifically because they're, regardless of what the individual change is, they understand a pace of adaptation that is different than prior generations.
Oh, I love that. Well, and it's really important for organizations to understand those generational differences and to be able to adapt and respond to them.
Yeah. I also think big corporations should never exist. The scaling up of healthcare, the consumption of smaller systems into giant big systems is terrible. It is like the discount toilet paper model of healthcare, where like you get a killer deal on the marginal cost of each roll of toilet paper, but the care actually plummets because nothing is local. You don't know your providers. Somebody 500 miles away is making decisions about your care. Right. It's terrible. I hate it.
Right. So, I hate it too.
It's like we're learning. This is like one giant experiment, and whether or not really big companies are really good. And surprise, they're really not. Surprise, they're really not, especially in things like healthcare, which is super local.
Yeah, I definitely want to see universal healthcare in this country.
Oh, God.
I mean, we're feeling it right now in my household because I branched out on my own last year, and we have insurance through the marketplace. It is incredibly expensive. Coverage is mostly inadequate.
Oh, God.
And it's really difficult because things that you may have been treated for, medications that you may have had under some other employer-provided insurance plan, and the marketplace will say, oh, well, we need to review that. And then some random group of people, as you say, who are 500 miles away from you are making decisions about whether or not you can continue the care that you have been getting.
Yeah. I mean, some random person who reviews claims in an office is like, nah, doctor, I don't think so.
That is the system that we have created.
Wild. Yeah.
It is wild.
Yeah.
So if you want to get on the universal healthcare, bandwagon, listeners.
Yeah.
We want everyone in the U.S. to be able to have healthcare as a human right.
Wild.
Which is,
wild.
A wild concept.
It is a wild concept. I mean, it's not easy, but that's a much better path. This is my thing with all of it. Debating, how we do it is so much different than debating whether or not we should. I am so sick of having to convince people that we should do the most obvious thing. This is so expensive. The care is so poor. Stop talking to me about the economy. You can't get people insulin. You don't have an economy, jerks. That conversation I'm so sick of. How might we make it so that everyone feels good in their body? That question creates generative solutions. I mean, this whole awakening, I'm a hot take all the time. I'm a liability out here in these streets. I feel like we've been pushed so far. I'm in my 40s. I need a sabbatical. I want a full year by the sea with a chest of books and no screen, right? I'm wired. But I am now in the world of there is even liberation in rejecting the right answer to the wrong question. All of these are the wrong questions. The question is, how do we make sure that everyone has enough food because we have enough food? And every other question about grocery programs and free and reduced, it's the wrong, I'm not saying it's not you, it's the wrong question. How do we make it so that everyone has enough food because we have enough food?
I think the conundrum right now is that there are people who think the question is, does everyone deserve to have access to healthy food?
We shouldn't. Those people are wild.
Yeah, but I also, they are wild, and
wild.
I want to know how to talk to them to understand, because I really in my heart believe that people think that people deserve the things they need to be healthy and happy.
Agreed.
I think most of us think that. So if we can agree on that, how do we get to a space where we are then meeting people's needs?
Have you heard of the Frameworks Institute?
Yes.
Did we already talk about this?
We probably did.
Anyway, I think Frameworks does a great job if you're like looking for real science. Me, I have no idea. I think it only matters if you have a relationship with someone from the jump. I don't know how to like change hearts and minds in bars, like in sports bars, but I mean, maybe people can. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's that much different than anything else. You know, I think we've put this framework on it. Like there are these political divides and it's so new and everything is so divisive. And I'm like, again, as like a queer kid growing up, I'm like, families have always had weird shit that they didn't agree on. That part's not new, right? How families engage with each other from a place of like love and curiosity is not a political question, right? That is a spiritual question. It's, you know, a relational question. And so, I don't know. Currently, it's all framed politically. I actually don't think many of these things are political. It is not political to question whether or not all human beings deserve clean water and food. That is not a political question. The distribution of resources is political. But the sovereignty of each body and our responsibility collectively to do what we can to meet people's needs, that is not political. That is spiritual. You're going to have to answer to that one way or another at the end of days. So, like, you can take that with you. But when I'm talking to people about all of these things, it feels like it's always the same. It's just like, you just love people and you're curious and you live the life you want to live and you don't expect to change people. And also you let go of the fear of being misunderstood, because the fear of being misunderstood will make you hate. Like, they don't understand why I'm right. They don't understand why this is better. If you let that go and you're just like, I'm just going to be in relationship with this person and the rest will work itself out. That has been a peaceful way to move forward in relationships with people with whom I disagree. That's not a policy response. But
it is, though. Oh. So for me, I think of that as policy because relationship building is a core part of how we develop good policy and having connections with people. When we understand people and we have relationships with them, we're more inclined to want to meet their needs and to recognize that we do have a common goal or common goals. So no, to me, that connection and collaboration, those are policy too. Yeah,
no, I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to wrap us up, but before we get to the wrap up, I have a burning question.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've had a lot of really amazing jobs, but I've also worked for some really terrible people. Most of the people I've worked for, I've loved. But I definitely have crazy stories. But it sounds like you have been fortunate to have a lot of really great experiences. But I'm curious, tell me you have a crazy story in your background about boundaries. Like, I mean, I tell people the story where I had strep throat back when the recommendation was still 72 hours post antibiotics before you could be around people.
I love that you have that in your back pocket. You know,
I'm ready.
The old strep recommendations. Okay.
Yeah. When I worked with children at the time, and I remember when I came back from the doctor, I said, you know, I need to go. I'm sick and can't be around people. I'm very infectious. And my employer was upset with me and didn't want me to take time off. And then they said, but as soon as your 72 hours is up, you need to be back on site. Right? And this was one of the things that made me
tacky.
It's tacky.
It's tacky.
It's I was going to say not thoughtful, but that's not the phrase.
It's just, yeah, I love it tacky. It's just,
well, it's disrespectful.
It's poor form.
It's poor form.
Yes, quite. And I mean, it's bullying. It's like, it's just a show of force for the show of force, right? It's exploiting a power dynamic for ego or for whatever. It's just, I hate it. That person can go kick rocks.
They can kick rocks.
Yep.
Tell me there's a person in your life who in the past could have gone to kick rocks.
I don't have a memory of that.
That's fair.
Certainly not in my current job, and I've had my current job for 13 years or something. But no, I mean, I've been really blessed to work with good people. I don't have a story of anybody trying to exert influence over me in a way that is detrimental to me and my health, physical, emotional, spiritual.
I love that you haven't had that, because I think everyone should have positive workplace experiences.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm in this weird little protective bubble.
Can I come into your bubble?
Yes, everybody's welcome. Come over here. It's great. Yay. Yeah.
I wish we could talk forever.
Same.
And so that means you'll just have to come back for a future episode.
Agreed. Consent. And you can come back to Viral too.
I would love to.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Thank you for listening to Work is Third, where we believe your joy, rest, and your well-being, in a nutshell, you, come first. If you love today's conversation, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a review, share it with a friend, or hit subscribe so you don't miss out on what's coming next. You can follow Work is Third to learn more about building better boundaries, reclaiming your time, and leading with heart. Until next time, take good care of yourself, because you are your most important asset. Remember, work isn't first, you are.